We'll call the regular meeting of April 21st, 2009 to order. We're going to ask Sedalia Sanders to lead us in the invocation and the flag salute. Would you come on up to the mic?
You would like your flag salute first, Mr. President?
Invocation first.
Invocation first. To the President and members of the board, and certainly to all of those who are here, I count it a privilege to be able to stand before you to offer words of inspiration and words of encouragement. I come with a very humbled heart and a heart that's also grateful. Grateful that we're allowed to live in this country of freedoms. Freedoms to practice our religion, freedoms to pursue our happiness, and freedoms to redress our elected official. So if you would join me in bowing your heads. Our Heavenly Father, we come this afternoon with our hearts filled with thanksgiving. We're grateful for so many opportunities and privileges that you have provided us as citizens of this great country, the United States. Lord, we also come asking for your divine guidance as each member here individually and collectively deliberate over the issues that are so vital and so important to the citizens of Imperial County. Lord, we would be remiss if we didn't also ask that you would put your arms of protection around our men and women who are fighting for those freedoms on foreign soils. Then, Lord, we ask for a special blessing for those who are feeling the weight of this economy. We ask that you would renew their strength and provide them the courage that they would need to face tomorrow. Special blessing on all who are in attendance. And with that, Lord, we ask that you would touch with your hand of mercy those who are less fortunate than we. These and all blessings we ask in thy Son's name. Amen. Now, if you will join me with the flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I have a lot of great memories regarding your father, Eddie White. Mr. Garber, is there any action to report from closed session?
No, sir.
Okay, at this time I'll ask the board to join me up front for presentations. We have lots of them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public. It's my pleasure to present this certificate of recognition and service pin replica of the district emblem presented to Alice Carley for 10 years of loyal and faithful service to the Imperial Irrigation District.
For 10 years of service, Susie Mitchell, clerical technician in the Energy Department. For 10 years of service, Gabriela Gaspar, Engineering Tech 1 in the Energy Department. For 10 years of service, Craig Gottlieb, Auditor Internal to Board of Directors. For 10 years of service, Mario Vasquez, Supervisor Management Information Systems in the Administrative Support Services Department. For 20 years of service, Joel Lopez, Project Manager in the Administrative Support Services Department. For 20 years of service, Victor Ceseña, Mechanic AAC Equipment in the Water Department. For 30 years of service, Miguel Barros, Heavy Equipment Operator 2 in the Water Department. For 35 years of service, Betty Sampson, Payroll Administrative Assistant in the Finance Department. For 30 years of service, Carl Stills, Portfolio Manager. 35 years of service, Carl Stills, Portfolio Management Officer. As long as the check is correct. And for 40 years of service, Michael King, Manager in the Water Department. Now, is there anybody else here to receive a service award and I didn't call your name? Okay, that ends our service awards.
Okay, this is the public comment section. At this time, you may address the board on items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the IID. We reserve the right to limit you to 5 minutes. Mr. Ramos?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hanks. Mr. Hanks, I got the final example of how the frame is going to be here at the IID boardroom. And I'd like your cooperation, if you don't mind. I'd like to see if you guys can go ahead and approve it. But let me just start off by saying that when I started this back in August, is because in August the Central City Council said they were going to have this and vote on it. It was on a Monday, I think, or a Friday. Anyway, I went to the meeting. I spoke for it, and then I found out a lady from Bakersfield started this movement. And ever since then, I had a calling, believe it or not. I'm not a religious man to begin with, but I have become more faithful about what I'm doing since then. They say that sometimes all of us, or some of us, have maybe an angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, and that some of us sometimes, because of that, tend to go either way. Well, I hope that all of us have two angels, one on each shoulder, and that we can do the right thing. I don't come here to get credit, recognition. I'm not that kind of person. I've done it with the help of the board, which voted 5-0 back in December 22nd for this. So this reflects what the IID is about, especially in times like Stella Mendoza, my little sister. People have said that without God we're nothing, and it's true, very true. Of course, being the country that we are, years ago somebody made the decision to separate God from government. That's okay, but we need to bring that back, at least in light of what we voted on last December. They say that in Psalms 109 it says, and bear with me, I'm not the kind that talks about religion in the Bible, but it says, and this has happened to me, in return for my love, they've accused me, but I give myself to prayer. So they reward me with evil for good, and heaven for the love I have for people. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and I believe in that. All those who practice this have a good understanding. His praise endures forever. And that's all I'll say. All I can do is bear judgment on what I've done. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but just say in the last few weeks I've gotten 2 letters at home signed by a person. They're not evil letters, but they're not good letters. And what I did, I had to write that person back and tell them exactly what I felt, what I'm telling you now. I couldn't reward, or I couldn't fight back by being evil too and doing no good. I know who the person is because he put his name on signed his name on the letter. One letter was written to me, and one letter was written to my wife. It wasn't a terrorist type of letter, but when you use things like that to the mail, it could get you in trouble. And I thought, instead of calling the police and all that, I thought by responding to that person and what I just explained to you. Like I said, don't look at me, oh, Tony's saved and he's going to heaven. I hope I am, because one day you may see me outside my door drinking a beer, which I still like beer. And I don't want to mix the two with trying to make a joke of it, but I do. I like a real cold beer every once in a while, more often than I should. But at the same time, I am a sinner. I sometimes I get mad and raise my voice at my wife. But I got 2 sons and 5 dogs that bark at me all the time. So I know when to get on and when to get off. But gentlemen, be that as it may, Nadine at Nadine's Frame and Decor, and a few others. This is a frame we're going to use. It's going to be like the one in the back that my little sister, my wiry sister there, adopted sister Stella Mendoza suggested. And it's going to be a half an inch more because Nadine works better with even numbers. So it's going to be 37 by 49. It's going to be the frame like this with an inset of a gold frame, and this will be metal Spanish gold, and the letters will be, in God we trust, in will be 6 inches, God will be 8 inches, and we trust will be 6 inches. So if we can get this off the if we can get this going today and approve this, Nadine's ready to order it and put it together and then hopefully frame it and put it up there in the next month and a half. I ask for your indulgence. I ask that the public, if disagree with me, I won't raise a eyebrow or feel bad about it because this is America. You have the right to contradict what I'm saying. But if there is anybody in the audience, raise your hand or come up or stand up and say that you may or may not like this. It's up to you. But if not, then I would ask that the public supports me and the people that are doing this, and that we get on with this and give God credit where it may. Gentlemen, I'm here to at your answer any questions. Nadine, if you'd stand up, please. She's here too to answer any questions or any information. She already knows how it's going to go. It's going to go kind of flush against the boards on the wall where it locks and it can be taken down. And any other questions, anything I can answer, board members or
Unless there's any objection from the board, I'd suggest that we have Mr. Ramos bring it forward. Any objection?
Thank you, sir.
Go for it.
That means yes, right?
That's yes.
Okay. Again, I thank you, and you won't be you won't have one second thought of voting for this. And Nadine, how long will it take for us to get this ordered and ready, and then we can bring it to the board so we can? I mean, you already approved to hang it up, maybe 3 weeks. So hopefully, gentlemen and audience, at the end of 3 weeks, I'll come back and tell you that it's ready, and then maybe we can figure out. Nadine's going to put it up too for us, and I want to thank Nadine for being so patient and so understanding with me on this, because you'll have I still go with my old way sometimes, and I nag at people sometimes, but my wife was there and Nadine was very patient, and I want to give thanks to Nadine and her family for helping us with this. Mr. Menville, Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Hanks, my little sister, adopted sister there, which tells me where to get off and where to get on. And of course, Mr. Abadi, no matter what happens between us and other issues, I love you and your family as you would us, and I never try to lose respect for that, other than the fact that sometimes we have issues that bring up, but I bring up here without trying to hurt anyone. The other board members here, Mr. Brady, I wish I had a 5% raise too. Thank you very much. Mr. Garber. And I say that in all, and just he deserves it, and that's what you get when you have a PhD. You get a lot of money, and I only have a BA. Anyway, I don't know whether that went good, but thank you, Mr. Brady. Excuse me if I said anything out of hand.
Mr. Ramos,
yes, sir.
If you run short of funds, you know who to talk to. Now.
Oh, yeah.
No, okay.
We'll use a little bit of that 5% raiser.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos.
President Hanks, IID Directors, Mr. Brady, Tim Kelly, Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. I'm here today to give a presentation on the mega region which the IID has been participated in. And after that, I will talk a little bit about some of our marketing that we've done, and also some of the awards that we received for that, and invitation which for our Energy Summit, as well as our Algae Initiative, which is coming forward next week. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Christine Loon, our project coordinator senior project coordinator for the mega region.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank the IID for supporting the first phase of the mega region, which we just concluded 2 weeks ago officially. For those of you who, for some reason, aren't completely aware of everything we did for the past year, The Imperial Valley EDC, in partnership with the San Diego Regional EDC, were the recipient of a $225,000 Economic Development Administration grant through the Department of Commerce to jumpstart this concept of a mega region. The overall goal is to brand and market the region, the mega region, to attract high-tech, high-wage jobs into the investments into the mega region. One of the things that we accomplished over this past year were to identify workforce and infrastructure needs as well as business policy recommendations and business incentive. We held some of the events here. You've all been handed a copy of what we call a global competitiveness strategy. And at the back of it, starting on page 10, are the 6 strategies of which we intend to move forward with. 3 of them represent the marketing component, the global competitiveness process of sending our name out to the world and saying we're open for business. The other 3 of the strategies are designed to really address the challenges so we are much more marketable. No matter how sophisticated of a marketing plan that we have, we're only as good as the product is on the ground. And so one of the really important outcomes from this past year has been to identify workforce infrastructure needs and create action teams around these to begin to implement them. As I mentioned, we are at the end of phase 1 and we're beginning phase 2 funding. We have our action teams in place. We're going to begin convening them soon to really prioritize and figure out step by step how to implement these itemized and prioritized action items. One of the really positive things that's come out of this whole process and what we intended all along was to create partnerships around these. So it's not Imperial solving its problems on its own. It's not San Diego solving its problems or Baja. It's working together to address workforce and infrastructure needs. Yeah,
Okay. First of all, I just want to announce that last week in Monterey, San Diego Regional EDC and Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation received the Award of Merit for one of the top programs in California and the mega region. One of the things that Christina did not mention is the name of the mega region, and it was announced there at the conference. The name of the mega region is called the Cali-Baja Binational Mega Region. And most people at the conference knew me, so when I said Cali-Baja, they figured it was named after Tim Kelly, but the region is California Baja Mega Region. I wanted to announce that one of the real benefits that we've already seen as we started this process, we began the marketing to see how it would work. And in September, I was at the CFIT conference in China. Jason Anderson from San Diego Regional EDC and myself gave presentations to many businesses. And we mentioned San Diego or mentioned the Imperial County. They didn't quite understand where we were, who we were. But when we talked about a region and what was surrounding us, 32 million people, Southern California, part of California economy, and next in the international border with Mexico, it really made sense. And since then, I've had that opportunity 3 additional times to market overseas. And Imperial County included into a larger region really does make sense. In addition to that, one of the reasons we received the Award of Merit, not the top award for the state of California, it's really got to be tied to job creation and development. And what we feel is that we already said that this is going to be a long-term process. We're already seeing the benefits of that. As a matter of fact, on the 28th of this month, there's going to be a regional algae initiative. A little less than a year ago, when we first started meeting with companies in San Diego about algae and renewable energy, they're telling us what they were doing or what they were going to do, and we started telling them what we are doing. And when algae came up, we said we've been doing that for 20 years. And so now we've had several groups come down from San Diego, and we're working with the San Diego the regional algae regional stakeholders. They will be holding a meeting in San Diego next week, which I'd like to invite you to attend. They would like to have representation of the Imperial Irrigation District, especially from the board and from the water and land. In addition to that, they will be holding a meeting the following week here in the Imperial County. It will be their board meeting, which will be a pre-conference to our economic summit. Our renewable energy conference, which will be the following 2 days. And so we hope that you can attend both. We hope that you can have representation in San Diego and the Imperial County for the algae stakeholders, because I really do feel, as I did years ago when we put together economic strategy, when we said that we're going to focus on renewable energy, a lot of people thought we were crazy. And now we see what's happening today. About a year ago, we started looking at algae, and we really do feel that algae is going to be one of the things that is going to be a leader for the Imperial Valley in the nation, at least in North America. And we're already way ahead of everybody else. We have the largest plant in the world, and we have the only plant operating in California, and we have 2 additional plants that are already in production, SunEco and carbon capture. And so that will be announced at the press release on Thursday, and then also here in the Imperial Valley on the following Wednesday.
Thank you, Mr. Keller.
Oh, could I, Cliff Hurley, but I had a question on his presentation before Tim leaves. Is the group directly or indirectly involved with the workforce? You know, they have county workforce programs and all of that, and I'm curious how you're linked to the workforce, because it seems to be a big issue.
Workforce is infrastructure, and it's one of the things that, as our economic development strategic plan identified gaps, as well as the mega region, San Diego and Baja has the same challenges. I do sit on the Workforce Development Board. I'm the past chairman of the Workforce Development Board, and the Workforce Development Board, as well as other organizations in the Imperial County, all follow the Economic Development Strategic Plan, which the county and the IID were responsible for sponsoring. And in that, we're all linked together. If we go up and down the state and we talk about economic development, workforce, education, they're all linked together. As a matter of fact, our conference in Monterey was CalEd, California Local Economic Development, and the community colleges. The year before, it was the California Workforce Association in CalEd. So you can see that there's a real linkage between the two. And as I mentioned, workforce is part of our infrastructure for economic development. As we're trying to attract companies here, we have to have a trained and educated workforce. Can we say we have that now? Yes and no. We have some gaps, but we do have a plan to address that. And as we're looking at industries that are coming in, we're already preparing and planning the workforce for those jobs that will be here a year or two. As a matter of fact, when I talk about algae, which is relatively new to everybody here in the Imperial County, we're already implementing programs that will provide internships from the universities and IVC for the algae companies here in the Imperial County, and funding to do that, as well as funding from San Diego Workforce Partnership for students that are in San Diego to come to the Imperial Valley and work. So I think to answer your question, are we linked together and do we have involvement? Yes, we do. And once again, I am on a board of 36 people that sit on the Workforce Development Board.
Yeah, I won't belabor it, but my question was not that. I asked it was an up or down question. Are you directly or indirectly involved with the workforce? And I didn't get an answer to that, but we'll let it go for the time being. I want to ask about these advisors. I want to know if they're if your board members as advisors are giving good advice, bad advice, or no advice, and who's going to evaluate them. Is that an open session issue, or is that a closed session issue as far as us evaluating the board members as advisors to whoever?
All I can tell you, Mr. Hurley, is I get evaluated every day in the public.
Oh, so we can do it in open we can do it in open session?
That would be fine with me.
But see, I don't know what you're doing, so somebody's going to have to tell me what you're doing as advisors sometime, because I'm really concerned maybe you're not doing anything, which would be all right, but if you do it well. But anyway.
It's sort of like a good investment. Sometimes the best investment is no investment at all. Huh?
Yeah, right. On these advisors, I hope that's true.
Yeah.
I thought for a minute that Mike had found that he had conflict of interest on the ceremonies because he's standing way over here by himself, but apparently he didn't, because he finally joined the group. But the last thing I wanted to bring up was you got this integrated water resource plan, which is not much as far as an integrated plan. I don't know if you got it before you or not, but there's a modeling of the IID's water matters, and it's the foundation for an integrated water resource plan. Companion to this as a framework would be a work program, and it would probably have approaches and projects, and they may be integrated. They may be sequential. They may be they may be running at the same time. But anyway, this plus a work program to me would be an integrated water resource plan. So I'm going to draft a statement to you that's what I think is needed, and I'll describe that other part of it. And between the two, I think you're getting closer to having what I call an integrated water resource plan. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no more public comments. It's kind of tough to follow, huh? Go ahead.
I'm Max Hamby, and I've been here in the valley all my life. First I was a beekeeper, and then next a farmer, custom tillage work. And in 1953, this document here shows when my father bought this 40 acres. It's at the corner of Hoskins and Bauman Road, and right now the owner is Chapelier, which is one of your employees, and it was bought for $1,100 for 40 acres. Why? Because the man couldn't pay his water bill, and it was sold by the district. So what I'm trying to get to you is there's a bunch of ground around right now that there's no way to pencil a profit. And you know what you're going to have pretty soon. And so my opinion is you have to do like farmers, pull the horns in, chop off the extra spending, and really bite everything down. Because when this happens, you lose, the county loses, everybody loses. And we're right at this point again. I own a piece of ground that's very similar, and there isn't a way to pencil a profit right now out of it. And I've talked with a friend of mine that he has good ground, and he can't pencil a profit on hay. So there's a bunch of people that own the banks own them, that they're going to say, whoa, Newt, and we're going to be in trouble. I'm thankful I don't owe the bank anything. But anyway, I'm just trying to get you to see what kind of mess we're in right now. And one of the big reasons is the cattle men and the dairy men both are going broke. They can't afford the hay, and we can't afford to grow it with the fertilizer, the water, and all the prices as high as they are right now. So I'm just here to try to wake you up to the facts. What goes around comes around, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamby. All right, we'll move on to board comments. We'll start to the left this time with...
no comments, thank you.
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
No comments. Okay, we'll move to the general manager.
Just two quick comments, Mr. President, members. I'd like to pull item 20 for consideration. This was on 3 new policies. And in reviewing this, I wanted to tighten up a couple of definitions on that before we bring it to you for approval. So we'll bring that back to you next time. And then secondly, just to remind the board that there is ethics training to be held from 9 until 12.
28.
On the 28th, and I'm sure that's all on your calendar, and you're all excited about that.
And that's a public meeting.
And that is a public meeting, right?
April 28th.
That's it.
Mr. Garber?
No comments, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to the informational agenda. I was looking for Mr. Anderson. I didn't see him. Is there anyone here from the County Office of Education? We'll place this on the next agenda.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 2, board discussion of the need for a presentation of a revised 2009 IID budget. I'd ask that one be placed on the agenda, and it goes along with some of the comments Mr. Hamby made. The recent request for the rate increases in a recessive economic environment demonstrate the loss of control of the budgeting process at IID. Initially, IID Energy and the general manager requested a 6% rate increase, which 3 members of the IID board passed, relying on the acceptance of the management's recommendation. However, since that time, the necessity for this rate increase has been lowered to 3% across the board on savings generated by the market drop in fuel and purchase power in the work in supply and trading. And it's also been discussed that maybe a rate increase is not needed at all. To date, the 6% rate increase, again relying on staff's recommendations, still stands and has not been brought back to the board for lowering to 3% or for full rescission. In fairness to the public, this board cannot ignore the budget and hope this situation just goes away. We must take corrective action. We must do so prior to staff spending more money than we have budgeted. Therefore, I am calling for this board to direct staff to bring back a balanced budget with a 3% rate increase and one with no rate increase for this board to vote on at the next board meeting. Is there any modifications or
I'd like
agreement?
I agree with Director Hanks, but I think as my standpoint, what I voted for in December was to accept the general manager's proposed idea and not necessarily a 6% increase.
Okay. I would see what the feelings of the rest of the board is as far as bringing us back a budget. We have a recommendation from the general manager for a 3% rate increase. Do you want to see a budget brought back with that included, or do you want to see one brought back with no rate increase? Or
No, I know that the board back in December passed a 6% rate increase, but I would rather see, we're not going to have a rate increase on the energy side. I would rather see the budget rework brought back without a rate increase on the energy side. On the water side, I know we're still waiting on the Prop 218 vote, and so I think that's part of the budget's going to have to wait till we see what the outcome of the vote is. But from the energy side, I'm for bringing it back and taking out the 6% rate increase.
If I might, Mr. President, members, we have been, as you know, we've been watching this very closely. We've had dramatic improvement in the budget numbers, actually in the actual numbers. What we were hoping to do in consultation with Mr. Ajayan and Mr. Broking and others, we wanted to get at least a first complete quarter's worth of data in the can, so to speak, and it's my expectation that this in the first board meeting in May, we will bring back to you a balanced budget. And actually, the numbers that we've been showing you, and in fact, I think what Greg is going to be showing you later on today, we already adjusted those numbers down. And that I will be removing any request for a budget, or excuse me, a rate increase for this year. And, we are hopeful. I mean, we have to be prudent, but from a staff perspective, but we are hopeful that we're going to be able to extend that no rate increase into 2010. So I appreciate your indulgence on working with us for this last month or so, but I think next board meeting we'll bring back a balanced budget because it already is balanced, and some projection as to how far out we can push out any rate increase.
Okay, I think Director Minville's suggestion is appropriate. We'll deal with the energy first, then we'll see where 218 goes and come back and visit that site.
Right.
Wouldn't it be possible to go ahead and work on a balanced budget on the water? Since we already know what the $3 looks like, because that's the one that was passed in December, so we're only just looking at with no increase. Wouldn't that be possible?
Yes. In fact, Mr. Abadi, members of the board, we are working on that right now in the event that the 218 protest is successful, and we want to bring back all of those options for you. I will tell you that from my perspective and from the Water Department's perspective, the numbers are the numbers are pretty brutal with no rate increase, but we are developing that, and we will have that for you.
I would just like to add, and I don't want to go too far because it's closed session, but we are establishing goals for our general manager for this next year, and in the process of establishing that, we are looking at some rate stabilization issues and some opportunities that exist. And I'll just leave it there for now.
And those goals, at least in some fashion, will be reported out once they've been established.
Thank you.
I think, Mr. King, at the meeting of the 14th, I think you handed out this that showed the $17, $18, $19, and $20 increases.
That is correct. I handed it out at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to water on general managers matters. Pardon me, Mr. King.
Try to keep this brief. President Hanks and members of the board, water cards, it's been a topic that's been ongoing for quite a while. We have 4,026 ag water cards that have been returned, and we're processing those now as we enter those into the system. Also, as of today, the Bureau website shows predicting 48,118 acre feet under. As we move, and I've handed out the information to each one of you. Also, just for your information, I'm going around and meeting with all Water Department employees, and I've handed out the presentation to each one of you that we're planning on giving, and all my staff take part in that, all the assistant managers and myself, and Cynthia Matovjovsky, which is in charge of my budget. We held our first one yesterday, and it was very good. We had the Water Control Center packed out with all the folks who were within the yard, and I believe it was well received and appreciated, trying to give them a high-level aspect of where the Water Department is and what we're doing. So you can take a look, and if anybody would like to attend any of these, you can contact me, and I'll give you some dates. We have one this Thursday at the Water Control Center, meeting with the heavy equipment folks, if anybody wants to come to that meeting at 2 o'clock. Anyway, this is what we're attempting to go out and meet with all the Water Department folks. It may take a couple of meetings in the divisions because of operations and their schedules, day shifts and swing shifts and night shifts and all that stuff to meet with all the folks. But we're in the process of doing that. It should be wrapped up by about the second week in May, time we get all this stuff gone, hopefully before then. Also, this Friday at the Imperial Irrigation District, there will be a Drop 2 operations modeling meeting, and that is being headed up from our side. Paul Peschel from our engineering side, and then all of our operations staff will be meeting with the Bureau folks on starting to really work on the modeling and the operations of the Drop 2 reservoir and see how it's, and where we can get our input into how that's going to coordinate and work in conjunction with the system that we have on the All-American. So that's it's a big meeting. It's going to last all day from about, I think it starts at 9 o'clock and goes to 3 or 9:30.
Mr. Kane, when do you think the operational agreement of the Drop 2 will be finalized so we can all get a look at it?
That I don't know, and hopefully we'll find out more about that on Friday as they meet. I'm going to go to part of the meeting. I can't be there all day to get that done. And addressing our concerns, as we've mentioned before, lost hydro production and different issues that go into that is also to be part of this agreement as we work through that. And as soon as we get something on a draft form, I'll be glad to get it to the board and share it with you.
They'll address available freeboard, hydro opportunities in peripheral canals, capacities and stuff like that?
Yeah, our capacity should be fine as far as that on that, but it's going to be the other thing will be the accounting of the water. When it's put there, how are they going to count it when we take it out, or their losses, all these types of things. As far as I'm concerned, to get it there is the Bureau's loss, not mine. It shouldn't come out of ours, and it's a new heading, so when we take 500 feet, it's 500 feet, and we don't have all the loss calculations and stuff that go into that. Just kind of what we're working toward. Also, for information, and I think most of you are aware of that, the AEC dedication is on April 30th at 10 o'clock out there, and be a big event. We've got lots and lots of folks coming. We do have a bus that's showing up here, I believe, is Bob. Bob's not here. He's gone. We've arranged for a bus to come here at headquarters, but there's parking and everything out there at the site. It's the Gordon Wells turnoff, so it's on the south side of the freeway there. So I think you've all been invited to attend. Also, thought I handed it out. Maybe I didn't. I don't see it laying here. Oh, there it is in front of me. I handed out a memo or an email that I got from Jennifer McCloskey to you board members about the Challenge Grant Water Marketing and Efficiency Grants for 09, which are stimulus money. We have quite a while ago, we gave the Bureau of Reclamation a list of projects that we thought might be available for stimulus. One of those is Imperial Dam. We have some pipelining projects like the Beach Canal relocation, things like that. There are some constraints related to these projects, but Paul Peschel will be preparing our application as we move through this process, along with some folks from Tina's shop on helping write these things. Jennifer's given me a little clue on how to get some of these things put together to where they got to be very simple. The more simple they are, the more readable, and we'll go through it. You stand a much better chance of getting the money than if it's real complicated and they got to kind of search around in your material, they'll just lay it aside. A couple of things that go to, they have to be $2 million projects, and they have to be a cost share. So it's a 50-50 cost share, and we have to have our application in by May 22nd this year, and be able to meet the following criteria, and it's laid out there, some of the objectives to it that you have to do. Water banking, water markets, new technologies, improved water management, canal lining, measuring devices is one that really intrigues me, because we want to do that. But there's a catch to some of this, is that all the eligible projects have to be completed by 2011. So it doesn't give us a long time frame, just a little over 2 years to get some of this done. And if we can expect completion before September 30th of 2010, it even puts it higher up on the list. We have some projects that we could definitely do that with. So we're in the process of preparing that application and get it to them. So any questions on that?
Mr. King, the past two we've done for automation.
Right.
Hopefully this effort will go to something a little different than that.
Correct. More in measuring. I'm looking at a lot of the pipeline projects we have. That we have, like the Beach Canal relocation, which would be a great benefit to our system. Better delivery and get rid of that open canal that runs through the city of Calexico is one of the issues. And we've got some out here around the mall, some things that needs to be closed in. And talking to Jennifer, we may be able to combine some of these projects to get the $2 million put together, since it's kind of in an area of economic development. So we're going to be working with her as we go through that. So we think we have an opportunity to possibly get into get some money. But again, one of the I won't call it a drawback, but one of the parts is that it is a cost share. So if we had
it's a 50%.
50%. So and it has to be a $2 million project. So for each project you put in, the district has to come up with the 50%. So
what is the max?
They don't really give you a max that we could go, but we probably have.
No, it says here max federal.
We have a lot.
It's $5 million.
Yeah, for the federal
per project.
maximum federal cost share is $5 million. So I'm hoping that's just one project.
Well, I am too.
Yeah, so.
You better find out.
But even then, that's $10 million worth of projects that we would have to spend if it was a total of 5.
Yeah.
But that means we'd have to come up with $5 million in financing to do that or whatever it may be. But I think it's an opportunity we can't, even if we don't get to participate, I think it's good to go through the exercise, go through it and see what becomes available for us. Also, I handed out just for your information, there's a sheet, the DWR Regional Public Workshops, and that's to review the draft of the California Water Plan update for 2009. And there will be a meeting held here in El Centro on April the 29th from 9:30 to 4:30 here at this boardroom. If anybody's interested in participating in that, you're welcome to come. And if anybody needs, there's also a website that you can go on and look at the agenda and so forth. And I can leave this laying on the back. Sorry I didn't get enough, or I can have those printed and laid on the back before the end of the meeting. And the agenda's on the back, so just for your information. And that's all I have.
I have a question. On the drop 2 negotiations for power loss and et cetera, who are you negotiating with?
We're negotiating with the Bureau of Reclamation, and this was brought up long before they ever had a deal with Nevada, MWD, and CAP as far as building that reservoir, but it is not in their agreement. They're due to pay O&M costs, but no power. And when I saw the agreement after it was already finalized, I brought this up to Lori Gray, that the water that's being bypassed needs to have consideration for lost hydro production that we would have. And so that's still under discussion. I'm not going to give on that because it's their facility and there's an impact to us on an economic aspect, and we should be made whole.
Have you, when usually 100, 200,000 acre feet go to Mexico every year, on the average, what is it, 100, 150,000 for
somewhere
free?
in that vicinity, and they're estimating this is about they're 40 to 60,000 acre foot a year would be conserved with this project.
So have you figured out the loss of hydro on that?
We've been working on that, and we have some numbers that's been generated, and I really need to solidify those numbers as we get deeper into conversations with them of what that might be, and they're going to say it's small, but I don't care if it's small or big, it's still lost revenue, depending on how the calculation goes for the falling energy charge. It might mean an impact to the water department. But regardless, we're one company, and we should get what we deserve. So we'll be working on that very hard, and I'll keep you abreast on that.
Mr. King, if they're not interested in replacing the power that's lost, would they be interested in some extra water in exchange for power?
That would be nice. That'd be something I can throw them. They're probably not, but we'll see.
Well, we're going to have to use that water to generate some power maybe someplace else if they're not going to allow us to generate it through there.
Right. Yeah, we're going to get all the advantage we can out of this and try to hold tight to that. We won't accept nothing but being made whole.
Mr. King, did you want to give us numbers on the water use? You gave it to us, but I thought maybe for...
Well, I did. I said it was 48,118 acre feet below.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I was looking ahead.
We were writing
ahead. Yeah.
I think, Mike, you have number 4.
Do you have number 4 or Frank? Yep.
Mr. King?
Okay.
Page 6.
I'm going to introduce this a little bit, then I'm going to ask Frank to come up. Also have John Curtis here for any backup if you're looking for anything. So where's Frank? Come on up, Frank. This is just for information only today, but it's a part of our normal O&M and stuff that we do toward the Imperial Dam upkeep on that, and he can go into a little bit of history on some of the stuff we've done in the past related to these roller gates and why this is a necessary project that we move forward with.
Hi, my name is Frank Reese, Water Department, PMO. Out at Imperial Dam, there's 4 large roller gates. If you've been out there, they're like 75 foot long, about 25 foot in diameter, and they rotate. They've been practically untouched since the dam was built, but we have rebuilt the first 3. And we did the first 3, didn't we, John? Yeah. And what happens is you have to go inside and water blast them, examine them, and you look for corrosion and to see the extent of the deterioration of the structural components inside. Once you do that, you determine if you have to replace any of the components. If you do, you replace carefully, like one strut at a time, because there's a lot of pressure on those cylinders. And then once you're done with that, you sandblast and you recoat them, and you're good to go. On the first three, we've had a few small repairs. And so we're hoping that in our estimate, we have a little money in there in case we do have to replace a couple of components, but we won't know for sure till we go in. Bottom line, we really need to do this because, as I did on the study here, or we did on the study here, if we have any of those structural elements fail because of corrosion, and you know, the cross-section gets reduced due to corrosion, and the pressures on the structures are really pretty high, then we'd have a heck of a problem because the gate won't function, and then we have to try to repair it in place, which would require cofferdams, and it gets real expensive. Mm-hmm. Right now, if we had to do cofferdams, it'd be at a minimum of about $770,000 if we use the inflatable cofferdams. We did a little research and found out we could use inflatable cofferdams. If they don't work, then we have to go conventional cofferdams, which means pile driving, and then we're going to be talking millions because there's concrete aprons that go up and upstream and downstream of the dam for a few hundred feet. So this is the best time to do it. We've got the money budgeted. I think we had $350,000 in the budget. We got $333,000 as an estimated cost or plan cost. So this is what we're going to bring back to you next week. If you have any questions.
And if, when it comes back on May 5th and it's approved, when will you start working on?
And that's the reason why I'm coming now, and at the same time we're going to do the solicitation because we're trying to fast track it. We need to be done around the 1st of June because that gate has to be out of the water. And so right now is the time with the high flows that the gate's out of the water. When the flows start coming down, we may need to lower all the gates to meter the water, and we can't afford to have gate 4 out of the water because that's 4,000 CFS. So we need to move on it pretty quick.
Time is of the essence with this project.
Yes.
So why didn't you bring it before?
Well,
have to wait till the last minute.
It's like I got a list this long and I keep chipping away at it. There's so much to do, literally. So it's still workable. It's still doable.
Okay. Okay, then bring it.
I mean, that situation can apply to so many projects. Do the best you can.
Thank you, Mr. Reese.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll move on to energy.
I do want to congratulate Mike King on 40 years. I have personally never been able to hold a job that long. I mentioned to you last time about El Paso notifying us that after April 2010 that they would not be providing us with 150 megawatts of power. You indicated to us that keep you advised as to how replacement power was working. Without divulging the details of negotiations, I can say that we're already beginning to get some alternate supplies right now that look very favorable in price. The one offer we have in front of us has some flexibility of use issues which have to be negotiated. Price is actually lower than what we've had from El Paso, so we're looking, I think, very favorably at what we're going to be able to come back with. When we come close to a deal, I'll bring more information back for you. A good deal, I think a good deal this coming year, a good deal of time and energy is going to be, is there a question?
No, Mr. Dan, this price that we're talking about that are coming in favorable, that includes all the whistles and bells to get it here and make it usable to us?
Yeah, it is. I understand there's some flexibility of use issues, which I don't have details on, that it's basically their first offer from a competitor of El Paso, and we think it's in terms of price, it's lower than the El Paso price that we've been working with. But we have more negotiations to go. The reason I even bring it up, and I don't like to talk about negotiations underway, just at least to address the concern you expressed about the fact that, are we going to be able to get reasonably priced power in its place? And I think the answer to that is yes. And we'll bring back. We negotiate these things on until we get a deal that we think the board would respect and would want to pass on. And I do expect there to be a lot of work being done this year or this next year on both revising our transmission master plan. We're going to give you an update on that in the near future on the transmission plan. There are changes because of AB 32 and because of other initiatives that are out there. I look for more, both in this and in renewable energies, I look for more opportunities for public-private partnerships. So as those projects unfold, we'll be bringing back information on that. The RFP for geothermal resources is out on the street, and of course we're already getting contacts, and you may get some contacts as well. I would always urge that you ask them to contact us, and we'll send them a copy of the RFP. Dr. Brady talked about revisiting the 2009 budget and talked about looking at numbers that are coming in and looking at the first 3 months. We're still in the process of collecting some of those numbers, but I think they will be favorable, as Dr. Brady indicated, in the energy area. All the energy utilities are concerned about declining revenues because of the impacts of the recession, and certainly we're experiencing that to the tune of about 2 to 3% lower than what we had budgeted. However, our savings in terms of power supply and fuel supply have been even greater than those losses, and more than make up for that. The exact numbers I think we'll be able to bring back to you as soon as we have the final first quarter results. On May 7th, the Renewable Energy Summit, just to give you, will be held at the Barbara Worth Country Club last year. I think some 300 people were in attendance. I have been asked to MC, or let's say moderate, an esteemed panel, which will include, among others, Dr. Brady, David Nahai, the General Manager of LADWP, Bill Carnahan, the Executive Director of SCAPA, and I guess the subject is sort of the changing energy picture for California. So that may be, you may want to put that on your calendar. That's at 1:15 p.m. on May 7th.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
And I think that's all the information I have right now.
Mr. Ajay, on the some of the other contracts we have, and I understand we have numerous small contracts. Are they about ready to terminate too? Or
the El Paso one is the most significant one. On gas supply, we're in very good shape. We just locked up a very good deal with British Petroleum, which, in my mind, looking at both this year and next year, 2010, I think the budget is going to look very good. I think you'll be at least very happy, at least with where the purchase power and fuels budget is. The thing that we have to get started on is the renewable portfolios. We have to start that process to go. We need 265 megawatts of renewable energy by the year 2020, and we need to sort of replace some of our existing generation with more modern base generation. Those are the key items. As far as some of the other contracts are concerned, I really don't have any information on me. I don't think we have any long-term contracts that are up for expiration this year, but I can get you more information on that.
Yeah, for some reason I had 2010 in my mind that they were, and there was a
well, that would be the El Paso contract. No, the El Paso contract is April 2010. And then, but beyond that, frankly, I don't have any numbers in front of me right now.
All right, thank you. Okay, item 6, Nyland Designated Representative Agreement.
Henrik Olstowski, Assistant Manager, Energy. I wanted to briefly describe the designated representative agreement for the Nyland Gas Turbine Plant for information. The Nyland Gas Turbine Plant is an affected source under the Acid Rain Program for the Clean Air Act. Under the Acid Rain Program, each affected source must have a designated representative to represent the plant owner in all matters concerning the Acid Rain Program. Each source may also have a alternate designated representative that would act in lieu of the designated representative. The designated representative agreement for the non and gas turbine plant assigns me as the designated representative and the generation plant superintendent, Baltazar Aguilera, as the alternate designated representative. The designated representative is responsible to represent the owner in the trading, well, not the trading, but the management of the sulfur dioxide allowances associated with the acid rain program. And they're also required to manage the submission of paperwork, which would include permit applications, which would include quarterly monitoring reports. The agreement holds the designated representative and the alternate designated representative harmless in carrying out these duties. And the agreement also has a process to replace the designated representative and the alternate designated representative as needed and appropriate. And we have a very similar agreement for the El Centro generating station, which is also an affected source within that program. And that's if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, Enrique, who is the responsible one that defends the omissions and reporting and the compliance? Who in that in the energy? Because it says we're already doing this.
Well, this is a very specialized program that is in response to the Clean Air Act, the EPA's Clean Air Act, and who's responsible? I signed this contract with the district along with let's talk about El Centro generating station. I'm the DR for the designated representative for IID as it pertains to the El Centro generating plant. Mike Taylor is the alternate designated representative. If there was an issue associated with any reporting, EPA would come to me, and I would be the contact for IID, and EPA requires this contract to be in place. And I think the EPA did it because in the past when there was a violation or there was a problem, EPA would go to a company and they would find out that they didn't really know who to talk to. So it's very clear who needs to get talked to if there's an issue. They would come to me. And I don't know if that answered your question. But.
Well, I guess my question is if a designee and an alternate are held harmless, who is the owner to make sure we're in compliance with the Clean Air Act?
Well, ultimately...
the IID's already defending that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would be held harmless along with Balta in that we're doing this as a best effort. But ultimately, I mean, if there were any fines or penalties, it'd be the district.
And who's the owner of that to make sure that we have oversight to make sure these things are done? We have.
Well, my oversight is Mr. Adejayan. So. I mean, this is hopefully to give you some comfort.
You answered it.
Well, hopefully give you a little bit of comfort. The DR, there has been a designated representative agreement for the El Centro for about 10 years that we've been managing, and there's never been an issue. Hopefully to give some level of comfort.
Yeah. So. This process is a little different than, let's say, NERC compliance. For whatever reason, the law requires that it be done with this contract, which is pretty unusual, but that's what we do to comply. The contract basically says that if Mr. Oskowski makes a mistake, he's not going to be personally liable for a liability that would ordinarily apply to the district, and that's fair under the circumstances. Otherwise, he might not have much of an incentive to sign that.
Yeah, but it falls under something that we're already doing from things we've done in the past. It falls under the Clean Air Act. What I just want to know is who's in charge of overseeing that and making sure things get...
I think it's going to work its way up the chain from Mr. Ossowski all the way up to the GM.
Okay.
It's my understanding they hold harmless is strictly with the EPA. It's not necessarily with the IID.
That is correct.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean to infer that.
In the whatever actions or inactions or submissions, I think was the term used, the IID would be responsible, liable to the EPA.
That's correct. And under the government code, a similar version of that hold harmless scenario exists anyhow, basically for acts that are performed by IID employees within the scope of their employment unless it's willful. So it's not that much of a deviation from what already exists under the California law.
Okay, and I just have a question for, I'm going to call him Hendrick. It's easier to say than his last name. Hendrick, you understand full well then that in the event that there was some action taken by the EPA, that you have the right to seek your own representative with the district responsible for covering the expense of.
Yes, Director Hanks.
Okay, because if you're dependent on us, we may sell you down the drain.
Well, it took me a little while to convince Balta Aguilera to sign this agreement. So
it's kind of like a driving license.
It wasn't something he volunteered to do. So
I can see him shaking his head over there.
Well, it's just, it's when you get right down to it, sometimes it may be in the best interest of the IID to settle something, but it may not be in the best interest of your career to settle it.
And we had a brief discussion with Jeff on that, and he was amiable to some minor modifications.
Okay.
Mr. President, I have a question. It says here that Carrie Downey, I thought she was a rights-of-way attorney. What is she doing writing these contracts?
Carrie Downey has a lot of experience with regard to some energy matters. She wrote the last contract, and she had already done that research.
We hired an energy attorney, Steve King, to take over energy.
Mr. King.
And excuse me, let me continue. And part of that reason for that was to cut costs on outside attorneys. Now, we're also hiring another attorney to help Mr. King, so we'll have two energy attorneys. And when I see material written by outside attorneys for energy, leaves me wondering, why are we hiring more attorneys in-house if we're going to send work outside to outside attorneys?
Well, let me try to explain. First of all, Mr. Keene's not functioning much as an attorney anymore. He's essentially been taken from me, and he's running the regulatory function over in energy.
Well, then why don't you hire someone to run regulatory and keep him? He's an attorney. Let him do legal work.
Because he was, I think you have to talk to Mr. Ajane about that, but he was specifically recruited because of his skills and his legal know-how. So therefore, we hired another attorney to replace Mr. Keene. So I wish I had 3 and counting me, but essentially I have 2. And Mr. Keene is, in fact, going to be moving over to energy to reside. As far as Ms. Downey, he specifically assigned this to her with my authority because she had done it before, and it was efficient, and it was the best use of our resources. We do some work inside.
Do you understand, Mr. Garber, when I question Ms. Downey's because of the experience that this board had with her during the Green Path Prudence Review, and I still remember that. And I can tell you point blank, I don't have a lot of confidence in Ms. Downey. So it is my recommendation, whatever can be done in-house with our in-house attorneys, that is my recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Could I at least jump on the issue of Steve Keene working over in energy? He sort of has one foot in the general counsel's office, being funded by the energy department. With the retirement of Frank Barbera, Steve had the background experience with the regulatory agencies. He, having gone to most of those meetings with Frank, was on top of the issues. And if you look into his resume and his background, you found he has a lot of regulatory agency experience. He worked, I think, for the Pennsylvania Regulatory Agency, and so he was. And in my experience with him, he has a tremendous knowledge of not only the legal issues but the policy issues that affect us in key areas. So it was a. At my request, Mr. Jeff Garber, and I think against his personal wishes to keep Steve Keene, we've sort of moved him to make that a seamless transition. I'm not commenting on the issue of who prepared this contract, but I am commenting on what Steve Keene is doing right now.
Well, let's just try to keep the cost down.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Do more work
and we
in-house,
do.
please.
And sometimes keeping costs down means using somebody on the outside that's sufficient, and sometimes
I didn't
it
hear a
means
word I
handling it.
said, Mr. Garber. You didn't. You
I
heard,
it.
but you didn't listen.
Yes, ma'am. I heard you. Believe me.
Okay.
I would just point out, did we move Mr. Keene's salary down to handle those issues? I think his salary is probably a little bit above that rate.
I think about the same. I think his particular grade point was about the same as Frank's was. I think so. I don't think he's gotten a raise. I think it's just the same. Probably deserves because he's getting more, direct responsibility. But I don't think it has changed.
Yeah.
My
Director,
comments
other
are not directed
questions?
at you, Hendrik. So just bring this back for approval at the next board meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It wasn't about you or Baltas.
Mr. Aguilera, are you in agreement with all this? Okay. And everything that Director Mendoza said, too?
Good job, Henry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Henry.
Okay.
Resolution regarding energy financing investments, Mr. Broking.
Yes, back in September 2008, the board approved a resolution for an investment agreement for the debt service reserve account for the 2008 bonds. We were using PFM as our investment advisor at that time. As you may recall, that period of time is what I call the first crash of the investment market, and there was quite a bit of turmoil. And PFM recommended that we hold off doing anything with the investment at that time because the rates were so low that they, along with everybody else, was expecting the market to turn and become more normal. Over a period of months, we've retested the market, and the market has changed. The investment agreement that was authorized by the resolution in September is no longer available. We sent out competitive bids. We didn't get anyone interested in a 30-year agreement. So then a little while later, we sent out bids for a shorter agreement, expecting to get bids based on some conversations that PFM had with the bidders. And by the time that happened, we couldn't get enough competitive bids or any competitive bids for a short-term investment agreement. So then we went to non-competitive long-term and non-competitive short-term, and no one was still interested in providing the type of agreement that was identified in the original resolution. So now we're back here today asking that you allow us to invest those monies in any agreement under our current investment policy, and we're expecting that would be somewhere in the 2 to 5 year time frame, because hopefully we'll do a short-term investment now, and then the market will turn, rates will be higher, and then we'll be able to lock in at a higher rate in a few years.
And this is information, we'll bring this back.
I have a question. What is PFM getting paid for doing this?
I don't know, but I think it's going to be a negotiated amount.
Okay, but during the time and nothing happened, were they being paid for
doing nothing? No, as far as I know, they've not been paid for the assistance they've provided so far.
Okay, so they only get paid for when they actually do something?
Yes,
even though you have them on as the investment advisor, they only get paid when action happens and something gets done.
Yes, that's generally the way it is with them.
So they're not drawing any money or anything. Because at one time I think that they've got like $40,000 or something.
We may have paid them.
These are the guys that Mike Bell brought these people in, or they've been around a while.
They are the district's financial advisor, so they may have been paid for services other than this investment agreement. But as best of my knowledge, they haven't been paid for the investment agreement yet.
Okay, thank you.
I had one question for Mr. King, if I could get him back up to the mic. I overlooked it. On the All-American Canal safety issues, where are we at on that with San Diego?
They're going ahead with the study and the investigation of the different alternatives that have been suggested. At the last All-American Canal Line Coordinating Committee, we put the question to the Bureau of Reclamation, will they accept buoy lines? The first go-around when we did it, before we had an All-American Canal lining project going, we put that question to the Bureau of Reclamation, and they came back and said no. And one of the reasons it did is because if they put them here, there's a liability all over the state of California, and every place they'd have to start putting them everywhere. So we don't know. We posed the question to them, and they're supposed to get back to us, and I think they're proceeding with the rest of the study as we're looking into the fluorescent paint issue, the glow-in-the-dark paint. We're going to buy some paint and do a test study and paint a couple spots and so forth. But I will tell you the ladders work. We had a group about 4 weeks ago, got a call from a guy just passed on the freeway and called me and said, hey, you've created another nuisance. And he told me what it was. And we had about 60, 70 swimmers from the dune recreational folks, and they're swimming.
They were swimming in the All-American Canal?
Swimming in the All-American Canal and jumping in, climbing out. So the ladders work as far as the ability to get out. But gee, many Christmas, it's still...
They were all from San Diego,
All
right?
from San Diego, yeah.
In Arizona.
In Arizona,
And
wherever.
Goodness.
We got pictures of 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. It's just amazing what we saw there. So the Border Patrol ran them out. Hey, you got to get out of here and so forth. So we've got to think about that as we go down the road, too.
Okay, well, keep us informed.
Like I say, the last deal was we put it to the Bureau on the buoys and to see if they'd even agree to put in some test lines. One's not maybe a sufficient test. They talked about just putting in one, and I said, well, if you're going to put a test in, you need to put enough of them in to make it productive. One buoy, you're not going to be able to measure that against anything, I don't believe. So we're waiting on their...
It sounds like Homeland Security built the fence on the wrong side, huh?
Yeah. Well, we have had talk to the Border Patrol down there, and it seems like that there has been a tremendous cut down because of the fence being put in. Some of those fences are floating. As the sand builds up around, they can be pulled up and reset. As a way they have a big base on them, so they're...
Amazing.
But you can set them over like they could dig under them, but I don't know. Anyway.
It's only tax dollars, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you for the information. Okay. All right, we'll move to consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any items that need to be pulled?
Yes, I'd like to pull 11 C, D, and E on number 11.
C, D. 11 C, D, and E?
Yeah, A for body and B for Brady can stay.
What?
Say that again.
What did you say?
That was good. That was good.
I went to school in the north end. You're going to have to come back to that again. Okay, so we pulled 11 C, D, and E?
C, D, and E.
Okay. Okay, there's no questions. Please vote. Okay, we'll go to the action agenda. Item 17, board action to support the following legislation.
Kevin?
Mr. Kelly?
What did you say? What did you say for those initials?
Mr. President, members of the board, we have 3 separate items before you asking for support. I would add the proviso that on the third bill, AB 1305, we're joined today by Brad Porres from Imperial County, and I'll ask him to provide to the board the latest information that was unavailable to us that affects our recommendation. On the first bill, AB 904, and all of these are authored by Assemblyman Manuel Perez. AB 904 is an incentive-based piece of legislation that is meant to entice renewable generators, prospective renewable generators, to Imperial County. It would provide the same sort of property tax consideration to those prospective renewable generators that are already available to large manufacturers in the state. And it's staff's recommendation that the board adopt a support position.
That's on 904.
Yeah. You want to do those separately?
Yeah, we'll need three separate actions.
I'll move for approval of
Second.
904.
Okay. Is this is pretty similar to the incentives that was given to the zinc extraction? I think Silicon Valley, the same type consideration, I think.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Please vote.
The second bill that we ask you to consider today is AB 1079. This deals with the New River and the formation of a New River cleanup program. It's multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional, and like all three of these bills that we're presenting to you today, it's authored by Assemblyman Perez, and I believe it's supported by Imperial County and the local New River Task Force. And we'd urge you to adopt a support position.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any other comments?
Does this bill provide any financial aid to?
The bill is actually silent on the appropriation. I believe that there's a 2011 date in the text, the end of 2011, at which time the state is supposed to trigger and adopt an actual amount and appropriate it for the cleanup of New River.
Okay.
Is there any commitment to the cleanup water, where it might go, or is it going to stay in the river, or is it going to?
Well, it is a fairly broad brush in the approach. It's binational. It does call for there to be some cleanup measures on the Mexican side of the border. I believe the bill's sponsor is the local New River Committee that's based in Calexico, and there's some question about in the current economic climate whether or not they can get to a viable implementation phase. But it's staff's recommendation that the board consider an adopt position or a support position because it's the responsible position to take.
Okay, I was just curious whether, when we visited the power plant, there was some of the wastewater was being used, and whether there would be any commitments along that line if there was value placed on this water for cooling needs.
Well, I know that Mexico is seriously considering reclaiming a lot of that water, and it appears in the future that there won't be much water flowing north from Mexico anymore.
President Hanks, my review of the text indicates that much of the focus is on the public health aspect.
Right. Okay. Any other comments? Please vote.
And finally, AB 1305 is the bill that has been in the news of late. It deals with air emissions that originate within 100 kilometers of the international border on the Mexican side. And Mr. Porras, if you'd be so good, he's going to talk to you about what he's learned about the bill actually in committee and some proposed changes to the language.
Yeah, Mr. Kelly, before you do that, just one correction on the 1 cent. I believe that should read 1/10 cent per kilowatt hour.
I'll note that.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Brad Porras, Air Pollution Control Officer from Imperial County, 150 South 9th Street. And I want to premise my comments that I'm here speaking as the APCO and not as Imperial County Board of Supervisors. I was asked by Director Abadi and also right now by Mr. Kelly to give you my perspective on what's been transpiring on AB 1305. As you may or may not know, the county did sponsor this bill with Assemblyman Perez. They did take a support position on that. My association, which I'm a board member of, the California Air Pollution Control Officer Association, also took a support position on this the week prior to it going to the Natural Resource Committee for first reading. And at that hearing, they pulled back on this bill because some of the committee staffers for Mr. Perez is seeking additional language changes. And at this particular time, I have not seen that language. I understand it's substantial, though, and I guess at this point, if you're thinking about taking a position on this, I would recommend that you maybe want to table it until your staff can get in contact with Mr. Perez and see what changes they're going to propose or what amendments they're thinking about making. My association's been informed of it as well, and we will be talking to the staffers and the committee in Sacramento to try to get more information on it. As far as the county and Mr. Bob Ham, who deals with the legislation, I'm not sure what new information he has. You may want to have a representative contact him as well. But I think it's prudent at this time maybe to table this bill instead of taking a formal position until you have more information on what the amendments might read.
Yeah, Brett, appreciate you erring on the side of caution. Have you seen some real substantial changes, or you haven't seen them yet?
I've only heard hearsay, and a lot of it has to do with language in terms of basin or airshed, where it's not only the original focus was on those power plants that are shipping power over from Mexico. My understanding now is there's talk about including other power providers from outside the state, and as a matter of fact, even in-state, rather it be public or private entities. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. Also, it has to deal with long-term contractual agreements, if you can enter into them or not. And so without seeing any of that language, it's hard for me to comment on it. But it's substantial changes they're talking about making to the bill.
Would that affect the way we do business here for the IID?
It may or may not. Without seeing that language, I can't tell you for sure.
I move to table approval. Yeah.
A second. President Hanks, this is one of the areas that the county, law with a lot of other areas, but we have in common with the county, and hopefully we'll support and work together and clean it up. You have Bob Ham working up there, and we'll also be kept abreast of the development on this bill?
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Kelly will be in touch with Bob Ham as well, and I will get in contact with him and tell him to share any information he has available with the IID so that you're kept abreast as much as we are.
Actually, all three of these bills, I believe the county's already on record as having a support position. So the county will want to revisit this issue as well. We'll confer not only with Jack Walco, but with the bill's author, Mr. Perez, and find out what it is that's happening in committee and why we are learning about it so late. So once we do clear that up, we'll come back to this board with a firm recommendation.
Okay.
Now, sounds to me like it's moving towards a tax on a tax. Well, okay. Vote to table. Please vote.
Craig.
Okay, we move to item 18, the internal audit report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We issued our report on the inventory of generation fuel. The recommendation we made last year in our report dated February 13th, 2008 was that the district enter into a signed participation agreement with APS for the operation of the Yucca Power Plant. The way that came to be as part of our inventory generation fuel report is some years ago in a report called Yucca Power Plant dated November 17, 2005, we wrote this passage. At the present time, the IID does not have a contract in place with APS for the operation, maintenance, and fuel supply of the Yucca Power Plant. APS is operating the plant on the assumptions of the previous Access Station Participation Agreement. The documents we have examined indicate that this has been the status quo since at least 1997. Responsible personnel in the Energy Division's generation section have stated to us that they intend to have a signed participation agreement with APS in place in 2006. Well, we've included this recommendation every year since our Yucca Power Plant report as part of our generation fuel report. And every year we've noted that it hasn't happened. So we revisited it again, and still at this point there is no signed participation agreement. We understand there is one in the works. We look forward to the day when we can report back to you that there is in fact a signed participation agreement in place. Are there any questions there?
I have a question for Dr. Brady.
Yes.
How soon is this agreement, this phantom agreement, is going to be finalized?
Mr. Ajayan is on top of that.
I can't speak to 2 years ago, but I can say that one of the reasons we're frankly, purposely dragging our heels on this is because we want to see the fuels agreement come in before we sign the rest of the agreement. They would like to go the other way around. Sure, we're ready to sign that other agreement, but that would leave us out there hanging on the fuels element of the agreement. There are things in that general agreement, operating agreement, that they want, and there are things in that fuels agreement that we want. And it is, frankly, a negotiating strategy to ensure that we get it at the same time. So I understand the audit said we should have an agreement, and we should. However, it would be not in our best strategic interest to do that until we get the kind of fuels agreement that we're looking for. So it is not through oversight or dragging our heels or because we got other things to do. It is because it is part of our negotiating strategy on the entire picture, the entire agreement with APS.
So there is a method to your madness then?
Yes, there's certainly madness there, and
right.
I would hope there's a method behind it.
All right, cool.
You're not telling us in 2006 they had foresight, did you?
No,
Okay.
certainly not in my respect. There have been a lot of work done, and in fact, they to our generation manager who was left, Ostowski's credit, he was ready to bring that agreement forward last year, but we have, Dave Koch and I have taken a look at that picture and said that it is important that we get what we want out of that fuel supply agreement at the same time. So I think we're sort of, I know it's necessary to cross the T and dot the I, but on this one, I'm hopeful that we can work out what we need to work out with them in the near future, but it is part of a strategy.
And it is to our benefit, to
Yes,
the
it is.
district's benefit. Do you have a motion to approve, Director?
Well, I would just ask that you follow up 6 months from now and give us a report back and
Yes.
see where we're at?
Yes, we can do that. And we understand the Energy Division is working on this on an ongoing basis, and we revisit this issue every year. But keep in mind, in November 2005, when we reported that there was no contract in place, that was late-breaking news. It was not something that was on the forefront. Let's put a contract in place. Now they are working on it, and we acknowledge that.
Well, I move to acknowledge receipt of the report.
Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Please vote.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we move to item 19, approval of revised policy and procedure number 2320 regarding IID's identity theft prevention program.
Mr. Escalera.
Thank you, President Hanks. Board, what we have here is the policy that for the Fair and Accurate Contract Transaction Act of 2006 was passed that requires financial institutions and creditors to develop and implement a written plan to identify theft prevention programs of identity and what we have here is the district has gone ahead and developed the plan. We had a deadline of May 1st for approval of the board. So this is for action. The plan allows us to identify the general manager as the lead person responsible for this act. He then has the authority or ability to designate the department managers as responsible persons to implement and update this plan. What I have is a very short 3-slide presentation that I'd like to go forward to just to give you a real quick overview of the FACT Act and how to comply with it. What is the FACT Act? It's actually the Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act that was passed in 2003. It sets standards for guarding consumer information. It was revised again in 2007 to add what they refer to as red flags. These red flags are rules that financial institutions and creditors have to use so that will reveal if there's something wrong, either with fraudulent information being given to the institution or we're picking up a type of action of credit or we feel that something's wrong with somebody else's credit that are using it. So that's what a red flag is. The organizations are to maintain an ongoing account primarily for personal. That's really who identifies who they are, which are the organizations that maintain ongoing accounts, primarily personal, family, or business, and small business commercial, which is of course, the IID. What are we supposed to do under this act? We are supposed to take action to stop and prevent customer identity theft. We're supposed to direct opportunities of identifying in your organization using red flags. In other words, we are establishing updated processes where our customer services will go in there and look at abnormal transactions, cross-check information given to us on a new account versus old information we have, or even have a credit report done when a new account comes in. The idea is to prevent theft by taking specific steps, and of course it's to mitigate any damage or that may be done both to the IID or the customer. This is just a real long laundry list of things that I have to do, and I'll just touch on a few of them. It's to identify which accounts are vulnerable, water, electricity. This one is being presented by the Energy Department, but it really is across the board for it also involves the Water Department and also would involve the HR Department. Anybody that has personal information on whether they're employees or customers has to abide by this new regulation. And as you can see, there's a number of issues. Most important one is, I think, is the establishment of processes for each department to be able to verify our information. The other one is, of course, is to identify what is referred to as red flags to safeguard the identity of the customers, and at the same time safeguard the identity of employees. We are mandated or required to have an update to the board once a year at a minimum on any red flags we may have found, and we're going to establish a date with that. Also, we're going to actually have the departments do the same thing and then kind of consolidate that and present to the board at least once a year or as often as the general manager has requested us. In a real short presentation, that the policy itself is attached. If the board has any questions, President Hanks, I'd be more than glad to try to address them.
President, I move to approve.
I got a question first. Brian, on page 102, number 6B, you have protection of the CII stored in the IID SAP system. Shouldn't that be all district customer billing?
Yes, because I believe it's the water accounts they're
Right.
not in SAP. So, and Mike is going to make that change.
Yeah, we need your vote to be conditioned on a revision to that to include what resides on TruePoint or anywhere else that involves customer
That's my
account
motion.
information.
And that's Mr. Director Abadi's second.
Okay.
Now we can discuss it. Mr. Campbell, you're on board with all your requirements in the IT department with that?
Policy is the first step, and then as we work through understanding, the specific requirements. I mean, we've been working on this almost a year now,
at least,
in terms of what the expectations are. So there's actually a committee that's been formed to work on this, and so we know we have some work cut out for us. But yes, we are preparing for this.
And we already maintain the privacy of customer utility usage data. That's a specific exemption under the California Public Records Act. And we battle that out just about once a month with somebody. Most recently, the civil grand jury was asking for all that. We give information, but we don't identify people's names and their particular utility information.
Okay.
So this goes with the policy that we have in place when we release people put in public requests or we release information. They have to go through the public request process before we give it to them. That's our policy.
I don't know that this specifically has to do with our Public Records Act responses, but it's tied to the fact that similar information is already confidential, and we've already maintained the confidential of utility usage data. In fact, we've litigated it, and we probably are litigating it in the QSA right now.
But we have policy, procedure, and process on how they acquire this information that we're able to provide.
This information? No, they can't have it.
No, I mean the processes, though. I mean this particular they can't.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item 20 has been pulled. Item 21, finance. Acknowledge receipt of the February 2009 financial report. Mr. Brophy.
Yes. I'm on page 123 of the board package. I'm looking on line 19, column C. Year-to-date loss is $4.2 million, although that's better than what was budgeted for year-to-date. So the positive variance of $3.2 million, which you see over in line 19, column D, it's really a combination of reduced expenses and reduced revenue, offsetting the reduced expenses of $4.2 million of expenses and $1 million roughly in water revenues. If there's no questions on that, I'll move over to the energy income statement on page 125. Looking at line 15, the net income, column C, year-to-date $7.4 million, which is considerably above the $1.7 that was budgeted. Positive variance of $5.7 million. Almost all of that is a result of what Mr. Jane was talking about earlier, reduced power supply cost of $7.4 million. Revenues have held up very well, just slightly above what's been budgeted. Capital is similar to last month. There hasn't been a lot of activity in energy or water on the capital side yet. We're still expected to start ramping up soon. And then the last thing that I would like to discuss is over on page 135. It's the comparison of our book value to market value of our investments. And as you can see, at the end of February, the book value was about $2 million higher than the market value. But generally speaking, if you hold the investments to maturity, then you get paid the full book value.
I have a question, I think, for Mr. Jan or Mario on the capital spending on transmissions is $500,000 to date. Where are we at with the KNKS line? I thought we had phase one was supposed to have had a completion date of this year, and we're going to proceed with phase two. This project management, Mr. Stills, do you have a report on that project? We're doing 2 phases. Please provide, and the rest of the board members. Okay, thank you.
This is for
You do a motion on this?
Your receipt and file.
Huh?
Receipt
yeah,
and file.
move for approval.
On the KNKS line, as I understand it, and I don't have the full information, but we can bring it. As far as I know, all the equipment is up. We've ordered the poles, and I don't think the money's been spent yet, but the poles have been ordered. So those are proceeding. That project is proceeding as anticipated. But I will give you a better update on where we are with that next time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to accept as presented. Please vote. One last question for Mr. Brokine. On the external audit, when will we be expecting that?
I talked to them a week or so ago, and they are still working through some of the QIP issues to see whether those are properly categorized, and there's quite a few that they have to go through. So I'll check in with her this week and see how they're coming along.
Okay, thank you. Look at there, 5 minutes to 3.
Well, we got.
We got one more. Huh?
Oh, he's got those
11 C, D, and E.
Well, we have 5 minutes to get it done.
Get her done.
Okay, 11 C, D, and E. Mr. Body.
President Hanks, I asked these to be pulled. These three are the 3 MWAs that were not supported by a cost-benefit analysis. The cost-benefit analysis is clearly in the governance structure. The governance structure is not a request form made out by the board. It's a mandate. I know we need to go forward. It's been here for 2 years, and I put up with this again and again. Projects being approved or brought to this board without a cost-benefit analysis. Therefore, I'm drawing my line in the sand, and I will not support any project or for approval unless it's backed up with a cost-benefit analysis or a business case, depending on the amount. There comes time and time again, you watch our pole replacement program maintains its amount at 7,000 poles. It never changes. Last year, we did several projects that encompassed some of those poles that were identified in the pole replacement program. I'm asking the ratepayers, I'm collecting resources from the ratepayer for a project over here and ask them to collect for a project over here when they might actually be collecting twice for the exact same pole. There's some overlap in here, and I need these things followed through and cleared up. And therefore, I will not be supporting those C, D, or E.
Is your request in it to bring it back to the next meeting with the cost benefit
I have
analysis?
a question. This came before the ECAC, and La Quinta was approved by the ECAC, came before the information. Why didn't you raise these questions either for the ECAC or the information? Why do you bring this up now when we're looking at action?
We did. I did bring it up at the last informational meeting. We talked about the cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, I realize that, but the thing is, I mean, we got to get something straight here. If this stuff's going to ECAC and things aren't quite right, we're getting those guys to approve things. We got to get our act together here about what's going on with this.
Yeah, in fact, Mr. Ajay and I talked the end of after last meeting, and he has instructed. He may want to comment on this. Instructed staff to develop additional analysis for these types of projects. And as you may recall, the primary motivation was reliability. Well, that's kind of tough to put a number on. So I don't know, Ed, you want to comment on that?
Well, there's quite a concern expressed about how do you prioritize reliability. I think Director Mendoza, you asked that question. How do you prioritize these projects when you say it's reliability? How do we know one project is more reliable? Not all of these projects. In fact, most do not amend itself to a cost-benefit analysis because we're really trying to replace defective systems, and so it's there needs to be a new format for evaluating this type of project, which covers actually most of the replacement work in electric utility. I'm going to ask Mario to step up because we have a system that had been in effect, or let's say we spent quite a bit of time in the past in developing sort of a prioritization weighting system, and Mario is in the process of renewing that approach. That's going to take some time to put that concept together because there's a way of weighing all of the projects that we have labeled as reliability in some sort of ranking system in terms of factors. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Mario?
I'll talk about it as much as I am familiar with it. One of the things that we went back and looked after the last board meeting is how we document how staff is ranking or prioritizing these projects. As Director Mendoza mentioned, we know there's at least 50 projects out there that need to be done, but how do we know which are the first 5 to go? And staff does go through a prioritization and a methodology. The fact is that most of that methodology is not necessarily written down in a documented form. In our research, we found that the Energy Department, I believe in 2005, invested quite a lot of money, something like $250,000 in a new type of software to do just that, to evaluate and prioritize different projects based on reliability, safety. It was quite an extensive program, and it's quite a big program. We are looking at that again. We're trying to bring that down to it fits this type of scenario that we're using. For whatever reason, the department and the powers that be at that time discontinued that use and went strictly to a cost-benefit analysis for projects, which, as Mr. Jain mentions, it doesn't lend itself for reliability projects. We are working on that. We hope to have that fairly soon. But if we're not going to get to move forward, we're going to have to accelerate that because the anticipation was that we were just going to move on and hopefully have that in a couple of months. But
I have a question for Mr. Jain. By not authorizing these projects, what impact will it have on?
Well, I think that these need to be replaced. Mario, do you have any comments on what happens if we held off?
How urgent is this?
Well, we're going into the summer, and the idea is to get these projects done before the heat goes up. I mean, if you recall, these projects' primary duty is to be able to allow the district to shed load, redistribute load, depending on the events that we have. And so it's the board's wish.
Well, I understand directors or bodies' concern. At the same time, I think you have received the message, and we need to go forward and do what we need to do to keep the lights on, especially for the summer. So,
if I can interrupt,
it gets hotter in Heber more than anywhere else.
Well, I think that was part of directors' body question last time. How many outages have we had? Give us some backup.
I interrupted, Mario. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, and you're correct. I mean, we can do that. And had I known that, I mean, we would have prepared something tentative. But what we're trying to do, I can assure you that Dr. Brady and Mr. Jain took it very seriously because I didn't get an email, I didn't get a phone call, I didn't get a call into my office. I got an official IID memo that says, we want you to do this and we want you to do it now. So I can assure you they've taken it extremely serious. If it's a matter of just giving you data of how these prioritized, we can do that God, I don't know if we have an next board meeting.
That's a couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks away. But the time is of the essence. I mean, we've lost time in the first part of, because of some budgetary issues, not to force the board, of course, into anything. But the window for construction in the energy department, just like is in the water department, is very short. During the summer, we go into just the mode of maintaining the system. We have to do any improvements before the summer. Now, and by not doing these projects, we are limiting our ability to shed and manage the load.
In these three projects, though, there is no new loads. It's going to be serving existing load. There is no new projection of any additional load. And I think the justification we're looking for is whether it's tracking the outages or some justification. Whether a cost-benefit analysis is required, maybe it doesn't fit here, but some other justification should be. These three projects, there is no new load coming into the area.
Yeah, the main factor is they're always, some of them have, we will anticipate some growth, but the growth is what we refer to as load creep, which is just increased load in an existing household. But these are reliability. The stat is the system is old. These systems are over 50 years old. Some of them are built up so we can shed load, direct load from one circuit to another. They're not driven because we think there's going to be new houses or new businesses coming up.
Yeah, let me kind of add. What I'd like to do is go ahead with these projects because I think that no matter what kind of evaluation we do, these are going to be projects we need to do. But we do get the message. I mean, the message is that we want to have some sort of.
Having said that, I move to approve number 11, C, D, and E.
Second.
Jan, the picture that I saw on that line, is that the one on 86? There was a photo.
There was one on 86. Where's my? Oh, they
were at 86. I drove because I live in Heber, and it gets pretty hot in Heber. On McCabe Road and 86, I believe it seems to be Caltrans cones. Now, my question is, are we starting to replace them or move them because Caltrans is going to widen out 86, and should that be our cost?
No, it's not related to Caltrans.
It's not.
No, it's the need of the system. The area in the countryside, countrywide, we actually have only two services. One comes from the east and the other from the west. The one along 86.
Because it looks like what they're doing is they're going to expand that portion. Are they? Well, like now. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Sanchez, you have a conflict of interest. You live in Heber. You should not.
I'd like to make a comment at this time. This is part of a big picture. Some of the things that we've discussed. There's a need for corporate sponsorship of our governance policies, and we have directed that to our general manager. There's different steps that the board has taken in the hopes of getting the transparency, the accountability issues, and there just seems to be an erosion back into that system that we work so hard and we want to get past us and move on. And we're asking the general manager to read through that governance structure again, discuss that with his staff. There's some phrases, kind of catch-all that I've learned since I've been on the board. Reliability, act of God, time is of the essence. And it really gets down to planning, and so we are. We're up against the wall again to get this completed, and it just never seems to be an end to it, And I think there's definitely a message coming that we expect corporate sponsorship of our governance policies. Okay. Any other questions?
No. Call for the question.
Okay. Your motion again?
Was to approve.
To approve?
Yeah,
second.
Number C, D, and E, and number 11. I seconded it.
Okay, please vote.
3-2.
This meeting is adjourned.